Welcome all. Thank you for tuning in to Cedar Radio, your guide to films playing at the Art House for the week of November 8th to November 14th. I'm your host, Aaron Spears.
And I'm Dave Huffman, Director of Marketing for Cleveland Cinemas. And on this week's episode, we'll be discussing Pain and Glory and Dr. Sleep.
We always like to start off with our movie of the week, something we're very excited about that we want to share with people that's definitely always worth checking out. Dave, what is your movie of the week this week?
The movie that everybody absolutely should move to the top of their list is Parasite. Bong Joon-ho's amazing masterpiece of a film. I can't imagine there'll be a better movie out this year, and certainly is going to be in the best of the decade. For me, it is an amazing movie that the less you know about, the better. So I don't want to talk too much about it, quite frankly, because the more you talk about it and you give people hints about it, it's just wildly entertaining. It's extremely well crafted. It's a brilliant script. It's just so amazing. I can't speak highly enough about it. And considering how my expectations were super high,
we talked about that last week, I think, didn't we?
The Palme d'Or, yeah. That I was like worried that it wouldn't live up to those expectations, but it actually exceeded them. So that was very, very nice to see that movie. I saw it twice in the last 4 days. If that tells you how much I loved it.
It does.
So, yeah, it's fantastic.
So now you're adding on to the hyped nature for anybody, because I haven't seen it yet. I'm heading out hopefully later this week, but like now the hype is on top of the hype on top of the hype.
Right.
Uh-oh.
Well, I went with a couple of friends the second time who knew only peripherally of it. They kind of wanted to see it, and they had their own expectations for it, knowing that it was good, but not really knowing what kind of movie they were seeing. And I think that with the title like Parasite, it sets you up for a certain kind of film that you think you're going to be seeing. Right. And it's just a movie full of great little surprises, and it's just entertaining in every possible way, as well as very kind of emotionally powerful. So it's just a great movie.
That's in that category of just trust me, I guess.
Yeah,
because like you don't want
absolutely.
to, like, how do you sell something that you're that passionate about without, like you said, ruining it or doing plot synopsis or spoilers or anything?
Exactly. Yeah, it's truly one of those movies that you just have to go see. Don't read too much about it. Just see all those like accolades it's getting, all those one word kind of like, like fantastic, masterpiece, brilliant, whatever. Those are all accurate descriptions of this movie. So it'll be very interesting to see as the award season comes around if this gets what kind of Oscar consideration it gets, because it absolutely should get director, screenplay, picture,
just all of it,
all of that. Yeah. I mean, it really, really should. But sometimes the foreign films have a hard time figuring in that. But I also have a feeling this is a movie people are going to be as excited about as I am after they see it. So if they see it, I think that they will realize that it deserves to be amongst those films.
Well, that's how you can tell the good ones too, where like it turns anybody who sees it is automatically just turned into an advocate for that movie. Yeah. It's like, no, you've got to go see it.
And one of the things we've been talking about here at the Cedar Leap for the last, really kind of the last decade, that there's been sort of a diminishing audience for foreign language films.
Yeah.
Most people, and it's not just at the Cedar Leap, it's art house theaters across the country.
Right.
It's really just been a trend for some reason, and no one can really quite figure out exactly why, other than maybe there's just greater access to those kind of films for streaming online and things like that.
Could be.
This seemed to be the film to break that mold. Like it was a great, very busy weekend for it at the Cedar Lee. Certainly the busiest foreign language film we've had since Roma.
I would say like Roma, every once in a while, those like the awards ones though, like it has to be like a flat out masterpiece before people are like, I will go read a movie for 2 hours. Right. So yeah, it's certainly worth it. It's a fantastic movie. Well, these aren't like the My Dinner with Andre of foreign films either. This isn't like all dialogue or anything. It's like, even Roma, like it's somewhat minimal dialogue. It's a lot of visuals, and like it's not that much reading, and you get used to it within. I'm used to it right away because I always have subtitles on, even with English language ones, even including the movie I'm about to recommend in a minute, just because I like being able to see character names and exactly what the dialogue is on screen as well. But yeah, like as the rise of, we keep mentioning like documentaries are getting bigger and bigger at the art house. Like it's sort of like, one's a downward slope of foreign films, and one's the upward slope of
of docs.
Of docs. So yeah,
That's very true. And so what is the film you want to talk about and recommend this week?
I want to talk a little bit about The Laundromat, Steven Soderbergh's new film. Have you seen that
one? I saw that. I did.
Would it be a recommend from you as well, or so-so?
It would be a so-so.
Okay.
I felt like it was overly ambitious. It was kind of scattershot. I felt like it didn't do what the big why can't I say what's
The Big Short?
The Big Short.
Yeah.
I kept wanting to say The Big Shot, and I knew that wasn't right. The Big Short, I think, did an amazing job of taking really complex economic kind of situation that most people have no idea about the fundamentals of, and making it so that you could understand it.
Right.
I felt like this was just sort of like all over the place and trying to do that, but then didn't really have enough of a focus on individual story or characters, and there was just kind of took little like sidetracks and without fully developing them. I felt like the movie needed to be probably a half hour longer than it was for it to do what it wanted to do.
It did feel a little short to me. But yeah, I mean, I could have kept watching it because I actually was really interested in that because the structure to it isn't your normal screenplay structure. Like you said, there's the central idea is like this Meryl Streep character,
right,
who experiences tragedy and is trying to just use the insurance policy that they have paid for all these years. But really, it's the backdrop of like the Panama Papers as multi-character stories. So there's these tangents of other people that used Mossack Fonseca to hide money as a shell corporation that are like one's in China, one's in, I forget, I think it was like in an African country somewhere.
No, they were in LA, but they were from Africa.
In Africa, okay, yeah, because they were saying that because the daughter was going to run away and go back to Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of liked it because it was tangents, and then they stuck with them for long enough where I was like, okay, it kind of fleshes out that story a little bit more, and then it would cut back to like Meryl Streep or the goofballs of Antonio Banderas, Gary Oldman, and I'd be like, oh, right, this part's still going on too.
It's interesting that the things that you kind of liked about it are the things that I didn't like about it, because I felt like it hurt itself by taking too many of those, sidetracks instead of focusing on the main thrust of it. You set up this emotional kind of story with this woman losing her husband, and then you go, okay, now we're going to spend 15 minutes with these people that were just throwing at you out of nowhere.
Right.
Like,
so it just
we're
off to China, and then we're back to Panama.
Didn't make sense to me. And I was also personally distracted, just like I was with, even though I love Suspiria, I was distracted by Tilda Swinton and her makeup as the old man. I was very much distracted by Meryl Streep as the second character that she plays in the film. And as soon as that came on, I was like, oh, that's clearly Meryl Streep in some weird makeup. And then I was like, at least that had a payoff, though, at the end.
Right.
So I felt like...
Did you know that ahead of time? That Meryl Streep was playing two roles? Oh.
No, I did not.
So maybe, because I hit play at like, midnight the other night when I was watching it. Like, I had no idea she was playing two roles. And when that role came on, I was like... That's a weird, like, what's the accent that's going on here? And I was like, I just, went with it. And then at the end, I was like, oh, that was her the whole time?
You didn't realize
I did
that
not
was
realize
Meryl Streep?
At all, no.
Okay.
So, yeah, we had two different experiences with this movie.
You started watching it at midnight, so maybe you were a little sleep deprived?
That's what I was saying. I was like, maybe it was like 11:30, but I was like, it was later at night. And I was like, oh, Steven Soderbergh, like, I'd heard that it was like really funny. It moves at a good pace, which it does. It's really smart. It's really playful. Sometimes the jokes don't always really land, but overall, like, I thought it was like a really... I don't know, just sort of like a bouncy, fun kind of, like you said, Big Short style, kind of broad comedy, but about really serious economic issues that, I don't know. It kept me awake, but apparently I wasn't paying that close attention.
I just, as soon as she came on, I was like, well, that's clearly Meryl Streep in weird makeup. So yeah, so now, spoiler alert, if that was supposed to be a secret.
Well, we didn't say what character it was, so if you're duped as well, please let us know.
I was texting with a friend as I was watching it, and I was bemoaning. I'm like, what is this? Why is this a trend now where great actresses feel the need to play two roles, one of which is in heavy prosthetics in a film, and then, but like I said, at least this one at the end, there's a payoff for it in a way.
Yeah, no, I think there was too.
Yeah.
I think part of what I was watching for, I'm pretty sure I saw it at the Cleveland Film Festival a couple years ago. I'm totally forgetting his name now. The guy who played Bill S. Preston Esquire in Bill and Ted. Alex Winter?
Oh, Alex Winter, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's been doing documentaries recently, and he did a documentary on the Panama Papers. And I watched his Bitcoin documentary at the festival. So I watched the Panama Papers documentary that he did, And it's one of those, like, it should infuriate anybody who sees it, because it's this deep dive into like what the Panama Papers released and what they did. And so I was kind of, as the Laundromat was going through, it's the same story, just a fictional, very comedic version of it. I was like, okay, I do remember that part. Okay, I do remember hearing about that part too. So I was kind of like checking off the boxes of as if I had like read an adaptation, or I was watching an adaptation or something. So I was kind of focused, like, how's he going to do like this whole worldwide kind of connection of laundering money through this Meryl Streep character. And then it went off on tangents. I was enjoying that, because I was like, oh yeah, that's how you involve like the Chinese government. That's how you involve, just wealthy people all over the world. It's really fun. It's kind of in that Informant vibe. I kind of felt like that kind of more playful Soderbergh.
Except for I liked Informant a lot more.
I think Informant's better. Yeah, I do too. But
this movie is, I would say it's a borderline misfire in my opinion. So I can kind of see why they did not push to get it released into more theaters. Like this was one that they was like, yeah, this one was just going to go to Netflix. Like they only played it in like New York and LA.
Oh, we didn't play I was going to say, I really had in my head as it just went right to Netflix, like High Flying Bird did earlier in the year. But
yeah, no, I think they did. I think they did play it in a couple of theaters, just because with those kind of stars and stuff.
Oh yeah, Meryl Streep and everybody. Yeah, absolutely.
You might get an Oscar nomination just by default for Meryl Streep.
That's true. Especially with 2 roles. Do you want to start off with the first film this week, Dave, since you're a fan? And you want to probably, I'm sure, recommend this one too?
So the first film, the only movie that we're opening up this week at the Cedar Lee is Pain and Glory, which is the new film by Pedro Almodóvar. This is a movie about a film director who reflects on his choices he's made as his life, past and present, comes crashing down around him. And Antonio Banderas, who has been working with Almodóvar for over 30 years now,
with Steven Soderbergh in The Laundromat.
That's true.
Sorry.
Yes, he was in that as well. That's okay. But yeah, he won. Banderas won the Best Actor award at the Cannes Film Festival. So last week we had the Palme d'Or with Parasite. And now we have the Best Actor from the Cannes Film Festival playing starting this week. And actually, Pain and Glory is also going to be playing at Chagrin Cinemas and the Capitol Theater, so you have other opportunities to see it other than the Cedar Lee. And I can't speak highly enough about it. This is truly one of the most beautiful, best movies of the year as well. So it's interesting that here we are at the very end of October, beginning of November, where we've had a lot of really prestigious kind of top 10 of the year movies playing. Yeah. Sometimes we don't really get these until the holidays. And actually the manager this weekend at the Cedar Lee, when I went to see Parasite, was commenting that they felt like it was already like Christmas week, because the level of business and the movies that we're playing and the amount of people that are coming to see them, it just felt like that kind of time of year, like we're already in the kind of awards frenzy season, and we're a month away from it.
Well, it's also good that people are recognizing it too. It's not one of those that they're lost right now because it's not technically quote unquote awards season just yet, but people are actually still, recognizing the quality when they see it.
Truly. And I know, Aaron, that we've talked about this in a past episode, that you have what I would consider an egregious hole in your cinematic world, which is that you've never seen any Almodóvar movies.
Yeah, it's one correct? Of my like film geek confessions, where it's like, nope, I've never seen Intolerance, and I've also never seen any Almodóvar films. I don't know why.
Yeah,
like I have no good reason for it at all. I just slipped through the cracks.
I don't know why either. He's truly one of my favorite filmmakers. He's since I first saw. I think, like most people in America, the movie that I first discovered him with was Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
That was the movie that kind of put him on the map, and that was a huge art house hit, and really and then followed that up, quickly after with, like, Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, which was very controversial and got a lot of buzz. He was sort of like the bad boy of cinema for a little while with his NC-17, movie. And he's always been sort of, when we talk about cinematic provocateurs, he started his career kind of like that. His earliest film, Pepe Lucien Bomb, is sort of almost like a John Waters-esque sort of movie with a lot of over-the-top kind of bad taste kind of moments to it. And then, his next movie, What Have I Done to Deserve This, involves a woman who basically like sells her son to like this pervert that lives in their house, in their building. You know what I mean? Like, so he's always had sort of like
real PG topics he's dealing with there.
Exactly. But then he's really matured into this truly amazing cinematic voice who has a unique visual style. I mean, Almodóvar Red is like, someone has to make, when they make the documentary about Almodóvar, if it's not called Almodóvar Red, I don't know what it should be called, because when you watch his movies, that color is such a signature kind of thing for him. And this movie has a lot of red in it, of course, and it's got a fantastic performance. just a beautiful story. Another movie about filmmakers, which a lot of his other films, like Woody Allen, kind of makes movies about filmmakers sometimes. You know, write what you know, and but he does it in a very non-pretentious kind of way. This is about a director who's, kind of struggling with some health issues and not really as prolific as he was, and reliving some of the glory as one of his past films as kind of a total cult film now, and kind of reconnecting with past people from his life. And it's a beautiful movie, and also like reflecting back on his childhood that kind of formed him into the man that he is and the artist that he became, and some of his early kind of sexual awakening experiences. And it also has a fantastic performance by Penelope Cruz as his mother, who's another actress who's become one of Almodóvar's staple of players. So I can't recommend it enough. If you've never seen any other Almodóvar movies, I know, Aaron, you just said that you have Volver at your house.
Yeah, and Skin I Live In as well.
Both are great. I would also recommend, if you haven't seen Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, that's a great one to start with. Talk to Her is an amazing movie. Bad Education and Broken Embraces. Pretty much all of them except for I'm So Excited, High Heels. I'm not that crazy about Dark Habits, but pretty much all of his movies are amazing. So just, if you haven't given them a chance, check them out.
I feel even worse now because I have a vivid memory of my theater teacher in high school, my senior year. She gave me a VHS copy of Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown to watch, but we were like in production. I think it was on Don't Drink the Water or some play. And I was like, I didn't have time. I didn't get to it. And then I just like kind of slowly like just sat on her desk one day, and we just never talked about it. And I don't know if she just knew I didn't get to it or what, but
I'm just
like, I had the opportunity back in 1994, 1995 to jump right in, and I still haven't.
Well, I hope that you finally do. And
I will.
That, you realize that you've got a great library of movies to,
Well, that's one of those things too. It's like finding, it's like a new like binge-worthy TV show that you find. Right. You're like, oh my god, great! I've got 20-some episodes of this, this thing that hooks me. So as soon as I jump in, I've got a lot of stuff to kind of run through and enjoy. Hopefully. I'm sure I will. I'm not hopefully there. The other film we wanted to highlight this week is the film Dr. Sleep, which is years following the events of The Shining, a now adult Dan Torrance, he's not a boy anymore, Dan Torrance meets a young girl with similar powers as his, and he tries to protect her from a cult known as the True Knot, who prey on children with powers to remain immortal. This one is opening at which theaters, Dave, this week?
Tower City, Chagrin, and the Apollo.
The Apollo, all right. So, everybody knows The Shining, right? Like it's a cultural thing that like everybody knows The Shining. So I think probably also well known is that Stephen King is not a fan of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Yes, correct.
So there was a TV adaptation that I think Stephen King wrote the script for back in, I think, late 90s, early 2000s with Steven Weber as the Jack Nicholson role. Pretty universally disliked by the original Shining fans, but Stephen King was like, this is what I wanted. And we're like, oh, did you? So he wrote the sequel, Dr. Sleep, a few years ago, and like every Stephen King book that comes out, it was a bestseller. There's some diehard fans for it. This director, he adapted it and directed it. Mike Flanagan most recently was hailed by critics for his directing of The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix last year. So he's also comes out of the feature film world of like Oculus and Hush, Before I Wake. He did adapt Gerald's Game for Netflix, the other Stephen King book. So like this is sort of his genre. So this seems like to me he's also an editor of this film. So this seems like one of those like he co-wrote it, or adapted it, he directed it, he edited it. He
his
really wants to tell the story.
It. Yes.
Yeah. So and it seems to be like kind of in his wheelhouse. It's also 2.5 hours, which I'm one of those people, I think you are as well, where like that intrigues me. Like you really needed 2.5 hours for this. Okay, let's see what you want to do here.
I think it's most interesting for anybody, and I understand, you're not necessarily making a sequel to a Stanley Kubrick film. You're making, this is Stephen King's, book. But to me, like The Shining will always be that movie,
right?
And it's kind of bold to step in and make a sequel to a Stanley Kubrick film. Since now we are talking about a film, not just a book.
Well, you said too. That's why I was doing the whole like adaptation route over the years, where like Stanley Kubrick put his spin on that, and obviously I think Mike Flanagan here is trying to put his spin or his take. I didn't look up ahead of time though to know how much he worked with Stephen King at all on this project, or what Stephen King's thoughts are on Dr. Sleep. But I'm curious to check this one out because
I am as well. I haven't had a chance to see it yet.
Well, we'll be right back with the special events this week at the theater. Well, as special events are becoming a bigger and bigger portion of the modern theatrical programming calendar, we want to make sure we take some time here to let you know about the events we have coming up this week.
First up, we have another of the Metropolitan Opera live in HD. This is Puccini's Madame Butterfly, and that's going to be playing Saturday, November 9th at 12:55 p.m. That's the live simulcast from New York. And then Wednesday, November 13th at 1 o'clock, and that's an encore presentation. And that is also playing out at our Chagrin Cinemas as well as the Apollo Theater.
Even as somebody who doesn't know opera, like that's one of those titles where it's like, oh, Madame Butterfly,
yes,
that's going to be a big one.
Yeah, that's one of the most iconic of all operas.
Also coming up on Saturday, November 9th, we have our monthly showing of the Melt Bar and Grilled Late Shift presentation of The Room, the classic, not quality film. Couldn't be more opposite than Madame Butterfly. We've got Tommy Wiseau's masterpiece, The Room. Bring Your Own Spoons. That will be showing Saturday, November 9th at 10 p.m.
And then we have another film playing as part of the Turner Classic Movies on the big screen, and Fathom presents The Godfather Part 2. And this is going to be playing Sunday, November 10th at 3 p.m. and Tuesday, November 12th at 7 p.m. And I'm looking forward to finally seeing this one on the big screen. I was thinking about it, and I believe I've only ever seen Godfather 1 and Godfather 3 in the theater. I don't know that I've ever seen Godfather 2 on the big screen.
That's a good question. I think I did a 1-2 back-to-back when they did. It was on film, maybe at the Cinematheque or something years ago. Because, I haven't seen 3 on the big screen. So you got me there, but also, who cares? I don't know. Three's never pulled me back for a second viewing ever, so.
Well, I was just defending 3 to somebody who was like, I always heard 3 was terrible. I'm like, no, 3 is a good movie, nearly ruined by an epically terrible performance, but the movie itself is not bad. It's just all you focus on is how terrible Sofia Coppola's performance was.
Well, it's also in comparison to the other 2 ones. If you got 1 and 2 are masterpieces and 3 is good, it feels like it's worse than it really is.
Exactly, but it is not a bad movie. Right. It just has a terrible, terrible performance in it.
Another special event we have coming up, Fathom Events is presenting John Fogerty, 50-Year Trip, Monday, November 11th at 7 p.m. And as Dave and I were just putting on display privately our classic rock ignorance, it was like, John Fogerty was in a major band, I think. And we had to resort to the internet to figure out that, yes, he was one of the founding members of Creedence Clearwater Revival. So this is John Fogerty, 50-Year Trip, kind of a look at his life in music.
And we also have Fathom Events presenting Twilight Zone's 60th anniversary on Thursday, November 14th at 7 p.m. This is a celebration that will combine digitally restored versions of 6 quintessential episodes with an all-new documentary short titled Remembering Rod Serling, about the life, imagination, and creativity of creator Rod Serling.
I'm guessing there's probably renewed interest in this thanks to Jordan Peele producing and getting the new Twilight Zone series going, as well as also his feature film career. As we were kind of talking before we recorded, with Get Out and Us, they do have great Twilight Zone episode qualities about them.
Sure.
That you can definitely tell that's it's a huge influence on his work. But seeing some of the classics too on the big screen would be pretty amazing.
And I'm always intrigued when you watch a television event or television show presented on the big screen.
Yeah.
Sometimes they really work and other times you're just like, oh, it doesn't feel cinematic enough. So I'm very anxious. I'm actually planning on going to this because I want to see these, because I haven't seen every Twilight Zone episode, so I'll be curious. I'm not sure what the 6 are that they're playing.
Oh, good question.
But I'm curious to see them.
And if you're a regular listener to Cedarly Radio and are wondering where our Cedarly 3 picks are for this week, follow the links in the show notes or head over to any of our social media accounts where we posted our picks to go along with Pedro Almodóvar's Pain and Glory. We have our 3 picks of films about filmmakers. And also, please join us on next week's show when we will be discussing, finally, the theatrical release of Martin Scorsese's new film, The Irishman. As always, thank you for tuning in to Cedarly Radio and lending us your ears this week. All the music heard on the show is original music written by Grant Heineman and performed by the New Heights Jazz Ensemble, used with their permission, of course. Visit clevelandcinemas.com for correct showtimes and to purchase advance tickets. Also, there are links in the show notes. You can use those if you'd like as well. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are at Cedarly Theater, spelled with an R-E at the end because we're fancy like that. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcast, and while you're subscribing, leave us a rating and review
review, or better yet, tell a fellow film geek about the show. We'll see you at the movies.